What if everything you believed about spies was a lie? No gadgets, no charm, no heroic one-liners, just silence, betrayal, and decisions that destroy lives long after the mission ends. These films strip espionage down to its raw nerve, where truth is dangerous and loyalty is temporary. Stay with me, because by the end you will never look at spies the same way again. Number 16. Snowden, 2016. There is no gunshot here, no rooftop chase, no tuxedo, just a man staring at a screen while the world unknowingly bleeds its secrets into government servers. Snowden dismantles the fantasy of espionage and replaces it with something colder, something quieter, something far more terrifying. This is not about spies in the field. This is about systems. Invisible systems that see everything and forget nothing. The film follows Edward Snowden as he moves from hopeful patriot to disillusioned insider. What begins as belief in protecting a nation slowly mutates into horror at what that protection actually means. Lines of code become weapons, data becomes power, and privacy becomes collateral damage. The tension does not come from explosions, it comes from realization. The moment a man understands that he is helping build something he can no longer control. Every scene is grounded in procedural detail. Security protocols, clearance levels, internal culture. You feel the weight of bureaucracy pressing down on every decision. This is espionage without glamour. Intelligence work reduced to keystrokes and classified folders. Yet the stakes are global. The enemy is not a person. It is a system that has outgrown its creators. Where James Bond sells fantasy, Snowden sells consequence. There is no victory lap here, only exile, only sacrifice, only the quiet understanding that truth has a cost. And once you see how the machine works, you can never unsee it. Number 15. The Debt, 2010. Memory is a dangerous thing in espionage. It fades, it distorts, and sometimes it lies. The Debt is not just a spy story. It is a psychological autopsy of a mission that never truly ended. Years after a covert Mossad operation, the past begins to rot, and the truth starts clawing its way back into the present. 3 agents were once heroes, celebrated for capturing a notorious war criminal behind enemy lines. Their story became legend. Clean, precise, heroic. But legends in intelligence work are rarely what they seem. And beneath the surface lies a version of events that was never meant to be told. One built on fear, mistakes, and a decision that changed everything. The film moves between timelines with surgical precision, showing the operation as it happened and the consequences decades later. You watch young operatives trapped in a foreign city, improvising under pressure, watching their mission unravel in slow motion. Then you see their older selves, haunted, defensive, living with a secret that refuses to stay buried. This is where the film strikes hardest, not in action, but in aftermath. Espionage here is not about winning. It is about surviving what you did to win. Every lie becomes a weight, every cover story a prison. The question is not whether the mission succeeded. The question is whether anyone involved ever truly escaped it. Bond films celebrate the mission. The Debt interrogates it. And in doing so, it reveals the one truth spy movies rarely admit. Sometimes the real damage begins after the mission is over. Number 14. Eye of the Needle, 1981. Before satellites, before digital surveillance, there were human predators moving silently through enemy territory. Eye of the Needle strips espionage down to its most primal form. One man, one mission, one mistake that changes everything. This is wartime intelligence without safety nets, where exposure means death and trust is nothing more than a temporary illusion. The film follows a German spy operating deep inside Britain during World War II. Codename The Needle, a name earned through precision and brutality. He is not charming, he is not witty, he is efficient, cold, methodical. His mission is simple: discover and transmit vital information that could alter the course of the war. But simplicity in espionage never lasts. What makes this story devastating is how quickly control slips away. A single unexpected encounter forces the spy off his planned path. Suddenly, he is no longer just gathering intelligence. He is surviving, adapting, killing when necessary. The tension is relentless because every interaction carries risk. Every conversation could expose him. Every delay brings the enemy closer. The film thrives on isolation, vast landscapes, quiet houses, empty coastlines. These spaces amplify the danger. There are no backup teams, no gadgets, no dramatic rescues, only instinct and calculation. The closer he gets to completing his mission, the more fragile everything becomes. Where Bond thrives on spectacle, Eye of the Needle thrives on vulnerability. It reminds you that real espionage is not about domination. It is about endurance, about staying hidden just long enough to matter. And sometimes that means becoming something less than human. Number 13. Argo, 2012. Sometimes the most dangerous missions are the ones that sound ridiculous on paper. Argo proves that espionage is often built on desperation disguised as creativity. This is not a story of flawless execution. It is a story of controlled chaos held together by nerve and timing. Set during the Iran hostage crisis, the film follows a CIA specialist tasked with extracting 6 Americans trapped in Tehran. The plan is almost absurd. Pose them as a fake film crew scouting locations for a science fiction movie. Build a cover so convincing that it can survive real-world scrutiny, and then walk them straight out of a hostile country under the noses of armed revolutionaries. What elevates the film is its obsession with detail. Every piece of the operation must feel real. Scripts, storyboards, business cards, industry buzz, even Hollywood itself becomes part of the intelligence apparatus. This is espionage as performance, where success depends on whether strangers believe your lie long enough for you to escape. The tension is suffocating because nothing is guaranteed. Checkpoints, interrogations, random scrutiny. At any moment, the illusion can collapse. And when it does, there is no backup plan waiting in the wings. Only consequences. The film captures the fragile nature of covert work, how entire missions can hinge on a glance, a hesitation, a single question asked at the wrong time. Bond films rely on control. Argo thrives on uncertainty. It shows that intelligence work is often less about dominance and more about improvisation under pressure. And sometimes the only way to survive is to tell a story so convincing that even you begin to believe it. Number 12. The Constant Gardener, 2005. Espionage does not always begin with spies. Sometimes it begins with a question that refuses to stay quiet. The Constant Gardener pulls you into a world where intelligence work is hidden inside diplomacy, inside corporations, inside systems that appear legitimate on the surface but rot underneath. This is not about agents chasing enemies. This is about uncovering truths that powerful institutions will kill to protect. The story follows a British diplomat whose life is shattered after the murder of his wife in Kenya. What begins as grief slowly transforms into suspicion, and suspicion becomes investigation. Piece by piece, he uncovers a network of pharmaceutical exploitation tied to global power structures. This is where the film shifts into espionage territory. Information becomes currency. Silence becomes enforced. And anyone asking the wrong questions becomes a liability. There are no traditional spy gadgets here, no secret weapons. Instead, there are documents, conversations, fragments of truth hidden in plain sight. The protagonist is not trained for this world, yet he is pulled deeper into it with every discovery. The danger is not immediate, it is creeping. It builds as he realizes how many people are invested in keeping the truth buried. What makes this film devastating is its realism. Corporate espionage is not flashy. It is calculated. Legal frameworks are weaponized, human lives are reduced to data points, and the people responsible rarely get their hands dirty. The system protects itself. That is the real enemy, where Bond fights villains with clear faces. The Constant Gardener exposes enemies without names. It reminds you that espionage is not always about nations. Sometimes it is about power, and power rarely plays fair. Number 11. Breach, 2007. The most dangerous spy is the one already inside the building. Breach is not about chasing enemies across borders. It is about discovering that the enemy has been sitting in the office next to you for years. Watching, listening, waiting. This film tells the true story of Robert Hansen, a senior FBI agent who secretly worked for Soviet and later Russian intelligence. His betrayal was not loud, it was methodical. He operated in silence, passing classified information while maintaining the appearance of loyalty. That is what makes this story so unsettling. There was no dramatic break, no obvious shift, just a man living two lives with terrifying discipline. The narrative follows a young operative assigned to observe Hansen. At first it seems routine, a simple internal investigation, but as the layers begin to peel back, the situation becomes suffocating. Every interaction carries tension, every word feels loaded. The closer the truth gets, the more dangerous it becomes. This is espionage at its most intimate, not between nations, but within institutions. Trust becomes the central battlefield. The film captures how intelligence agencies rely on systems that assume loyalty. When that assumption fails, everything collapses. Hansen is not portrayed as a caricature villain. He is complex, calculated, driven by beliefs that blur the line between ideology and ego. That ambiguity makes him more frightening than any fictional spy, because he is real. Bond stories thrive on external threats. Breach reveals the internal ones. It shows that the greatest damage is often done not by enemies at the gate, but by those already inside the walls. Number 10. Syriana, 2005. There is no single hero in Syriana, no clean narrative, no clear victory. Instead, the film unfolds like an intelligence dossier scattered across continents. Fragments of truth that only begin to make sense when you step back and see the machinery behind them. This is espionage as a system, vast, impersonal, and brutally efficient. The story interweaves multiple lives: a CIA operative navigating shifting loyalties, an energy analyst chasing corporate ambition, a young worker pulled toward radicalization. Each thread feels separate at first, then the connections tighten. Oil deals influence governments. Governments manipulate intelligence. Intelligence reshapes entire regions. What you are watching is not a mission. It is an ecosystem. Tradecraft here is subtle. Meetings in dim rooms, quiet negotiations, information exchanged with coded language. There are no dramatic gadgets, no flashy disguises. The tension comes from understanding how decisions made in private rooms ripple outward into violence and instability. Every character is caught in something larger than themselves. The brilliance of the film lies in its refusal to simplify. There are no pure villains, no clean motives. Everyone operates within constraints, political, economic, personal. That ambiguity is the point. Real espionage rarely offers clarity. It deals in compromise, in calculated risk, in outcomes that are never fully controlled. Bond films promise resolution. Syriana denies it. It shows a world where intelligence work is not about saving the day. It is about managing chaos, and sometimes failing to contain it. By the end, you are left with a chilling realization. The system does not need heroes. It only needs participants. Number 9. The Good Shepherd, 2006. Watch closely. The most revealing moments in The Good Shepherd are the quiet ones. A glance across a table, a pause before answering a question. Silence is the language of this film, and within that silence lies the birth of modern intelligence as we know it. This is the story of a man who helps build the CIA from its earliest days. A man who learns that secrecy is not just a tool. It is a way of life. As the agency grows, so does the cost of belonging to it. Relationships fracture, trust dissolves, identity itself becomes fragmented. Because in espionage, you are never just one person. You are many versions of yourself, none of them entirely real. The film moves across decades with deliberate precision, showing how small decisions echo through time: a compromised operation, a suspected mole, a loyalty test that never truly ends. Every scene reinforces the same idea. Intelligence work is not a job you leave behind at the office. It consumes everything. Tradecraft is depicted with clinical detail. Surveillance techniques, counterintelligence procedures, recruitment strategies, nothing is exaggerated. Everything feels grounded in process. This is the architecture of espionage being built brick by brick, and you feel the weight of every brick. What makes the film haunting is its emotional distance. The protagonist achieves success within the agency, but loses almost everything else. Family becomes secondary. Truth becomes flexible. Loyalty becomes conditional. Bond lives a life of excitement. The Good Shepherd presents a life of erosion. It reveals that behind every powerful intelligence organization, there are individuals who sacrificed more than they ever expected. And once that sacrifice is made, there is no way back. Number 8. A Most Wanted Man. 2014. Nothing explodes in this film. No doors are kicked in. No one delivers a heroic speech before the mission begins. Instead, A Most Wanted Man unfolds like a chess match played in slow motion where every move carries consequences that no one can fully control. This is espionage reduced to patience, observation, and quiet manipulation. Set in Hamburg, the story follows a German intelligence officer tracking a suspected extremist who has surfaced under mysterious circumstances. What appears at first to be a simple case quickly evolves into a complex web involving bankers, lawyers, refugees, and multiple intelligence agencies with competing agendas. Each player believes they are in control. Each player is wrong. The film excels in showing how modern counterterrorism operates, not through brute force, but through pressure. And informants are cultivated with care. Deals are negotiated behind closed doors. Surveillance is constant, yet never perfect. Every decision is a compromise between legality and necessity. The closer the operation moves toward success, the more fragile it becomes. What sets this film apart is its emotional restraint. The lead operative is not driven by glory. He is driven by exhaustion. Years of navigating political interference have left him cynical, yet determined. He understands that intelligence work rarely delivers clean outcomes. It delivers results that are just acceptable enough to move forward. The tension builds not through action, but through inevitability. You can feel the operation tightening around its target. You can also feel it slipping out of control at the same time. Because in this world, success is never guaranteed. It is negotiated, and sometimes taken away at the last possible moment. Bond stories celebrate dominance. A Most Wanted Man exposes vulnerability. It shows that even the most carefully constructed operation can collapse under the weight of politics and mistrust. And when it does, there is no applause. Only silence, and the quiet understanding that the game will continue without you. Number 7. Body of Lies. 2008. Step into the field where nothing is stable and every ally comes with conditions. Body of Lies throws you into the modern battlefield of intelligence where information travels faster than trust, and every decision must be made before the full picture is visible. This is not espionage as a controlled operation. This is espionage as constant improvisation under pressure. The film follows a CIA operative working in the Middle East attempting to track down a high-value terrorist target. On paper, the mission is straightforward. In reality, it becomes a labyrinth of deception. Local intelligence services have their own priorities. Political leadership back home demands results without understanding the ground reality, and the enemy adapts faster than expected. Tradecraft here is aggressive and immediate. Surveillance teams move through crowded cities. Informants are recruited in volatile environments. False narratives are constructed to lure targets into the open. Every tactic carries risk. Every risk carries consequences that cannot be undone. The field agent must constantly balance loyalty to his mission with survival in an environment where trust is a luxury. What makes the film compelling is the disconnect between field and command. Decisions made in distant offices ripple into life or death situations on the ground. The protagonist becomes caught between these worlds, forced to execute orders that may not align with reality, forced to question whether the system he serves truly understands the cost of its actions. The pacing reflects the chaos of modern intelligence work. Operations accelerate, collapse, rebuild. Nothing stays fixed for long, and just when success feels within reach, the ground shifts again. Bond films offer clarity. Body of Lies delivers confusion. It shows that espionage today is not about control. It is about navigating uncertainty while trying to stay one step ahead of forces that are constantly evolving. Number 6. The Lives of Others, 2006. Listen carefully. The most powerful weapon in the lives of others is not a gun. It is a pair of headphones. This film places you inside a surveillance state where information is harvested in silence and control is maintained through observation rather than confrontation. Set in East Germany, the story reveals how intelligence can suffocate an entire society without firing a single shot. At the center is a Stasi officer assigned to monitor a playwright suspected of political disloyalty. What begins as routine surveillance slowly transforms into something far more complex. The officer listens to conversations, records private moments, catalogs behavior with mechanical precision. Yet as time passes, the barrier between observer and subject begins to erode. Empathy seeps into a system designed to eliminate it. The film's power lies in its restraint. Rooms are quiet, movements are minimal. Yet the tension is constant because every whispered word carries risk. Every action is documented. The characters live under an invisible weight that never lifts. This is intelligence work as domination through knowledge. The state does not need to act immediately. It only needs to know enough to act when necessary. Tradecraft here is meticulous. Hidden microphones, detailed reports, psychological pressure applied without direct confrontation. The machinery of surveillance operates with chilling efficiency. And yet, within that machinery, individuals still make choices. Choices that can either reinforce the system or quietly resist it. What makes the story unforgettable is its moral transformation. The officer tasked with enforcing control begins to question the very system he serves. His role shifts from observer to silent protector, not through dramatic rebellion, but through small calculated decisions that alter outcomes in ways no one else can see. Bond films present espionage as action. The Lives of Others presents it as presence, the constant presence of the state in private life. It reminds you that the most effective intelligence operation is the one you never notice until it is already too late. Number 5. 3 Days of the Condor, 1975. It begins with absence. A man returns from lunch and finds his entire office dead. No warning, no explanation, just silence and bodies. 3 Days of the Condor wastes no time pulling you into paranoia. From the first moment you understand that this is not a story about external enemies. This is a story about a system turning on itself. The protagonist is a CIA analyst, not a field agent, not trained for combat. His job is to read, to analyze, to connect patterns hidden in fiction and intelligence reports. Yet when his colleagues are eliminated, he becomes the last surviving piece of a puzzle he does not yet understand. Suddenly, he is forced into a role he was never prepared for. Running, hiding, trying to stay alive long enough to uncover the truth. What follows is a relentless descent into distrust. Every contact could be compromised. Every safe space becomes temporary. The film captures the vulnerability of an intelligence system built on secrecy. When that secrecy is weaponized internally, it becomes impossible to know who to trust. The enemy is not visible. It is embedded. Tradecraft emerges through necessity. The protagonist improvises, using whatever resources he can find. Communication becomes coded. Movement becomes strategic. Survival depends on thinking faster than those hunting him. And the people hunting him are not outsiders. They are professionals, trained, methodical, ruthless. The pacing is tight, yet never chaotic. Each moment builds on the last. Each decision narrows the path forward. The closer he gets to understanding the conspiracy, the more dangerous the truth becomes. because exposing it means confronting forces that operate beyond accountability. Bond films celebrate control over chaos. 3 Days of the Condor reveals chaos within control. It shows that intelligence agencies are not immune to corruption. And when the system begins to consume itself, survival becomes the only mission that matters. Number 4. The Conversation, 1974. Watch the wires, watch the microphones, watch the man who listens to everything yet understands nothing. The Conversation is espionage stripped to its most unsettling core. Surveillance without certainty, information without context, power without clarity. This is not a film about spies chasing enemies. This is a film about a man trapped inside the consequences of his own expertise. Harry Call is a surveillance specialist, one of the best in the business. He records conversations for clients who never fully explain their intentions. His job is simple: capture the audio, deliver the tapes, ask no questions. But when a routine assignment begins to reveal something darker, his professional detachment starts to crack. The more he listens, the less he understands. And the less he understands, the more dangerous everything becomes. The brilliance of the film lies in repetition. The same recorded conversation is played again and again, each time revealing a different meaning, a different possibility, a different threat. This is where espionage becomes psychological. Information is not stable. It shifts depending on interpretation. And when lives depend on that interpretation, uncertainty becomes lethal. Tradecraft is presented with obsessive detail: directional microphones, signal interference, layered audio analysis. Every tool is grounded in reality. Yet these tools offer no protection against misjudgment. The film shows how intelligence gathering can create an illusion of control while hiding deeper layers of risk. Harry is not a hero. He is a technician, a man who believes that distance equals safety. But as the situation escalates, he is forced to confront a truth he has avoided for years. He is not separate from the consequences of his work. He is part of them. Bond films celebrate clarity. The mission is defined. The enemy is known. The Conversation destroys that certainty. It reveals that espionage is often built on fragments, on incomplete data, on decisions made without full understanding. And sometimes the greatest danger is not what you hear. It is what you think you hear. Number 3. Munich, 2005. Revenge sounds simple when spoken aloud. In practice, it becomes something far more complicated. A Munich begins with a mission that appears clear: track down those responsible for a terrorist attack and eliminate them. But the film quickly dismantles that simplicity. What follows is not justice. It is a slow erosion of certainty. A covert team is assembled to carry out assassinations across Europe. They operate without official acknowledgement, without public recognition. Their success depends on precision, on secrecy, on staying invisible long enough to complete their objectives. At first, the operation feels controlled. Targets are identified, plans are executed, results are achieved. Then doubt begins to seep in. Intelligence becomes less reliable. Collateral damage becomes harder to ignore. The line between hunter and hunted starts to blur. Each mission leaves a mark, not just on the targets, but on the operatives themselves. The psychological weight builds with every decision, every consequence. Tradecraft in the film is grounded and methodical. Safe houses, informant networks, surveillance routines, explosive devices built with careful calculation. There is no spectacle here, only process. And that process becomes increasingly unstable as the team loses confidence in the information guiding them. The pacing reflects this shift. Early operations move with clarity. Later ones feel tense and uncertain. You can sense the cracks forming. Trust within the team weakens. External threats multiply. The mission continues, but its purpose becomes harder to define. What makes Munich powerful is its refusal to provide easy answers. It does not celebrate success. It questions it. It forces you to consider whether the mission achieves anything beyond perpetuating the cycle it was meant to stop. Bond films offer resolution. The villain is defeated. The world is safe again. Munich offers something else entirely: a lingering unease, a recognition that in espionage actions rarely end where they begin. And sometimes the cost of completing the mission is far greater than anyone anticipated. Number 2. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, 1965. There is a moment early in this film where you understand everything you need to know about espionage, not through action, not through dialogue, but through exhaustion. A man stands at the edge of his career, worn down by years of deception, watching one more operation collapse into failure. That man is Alec Lemus, and what follows is not a mission. It is a dismantling of everything he believes. Based on the novel by John le Carré, this film rejects the heroic myth of intelligence work and replaces it with something far more unsettling. Lemus is pulled back into service for one final assignment, a complex operation designed to discredit an East German intelligence officer. The plan requires him to become something less than himself, to appear broken, to fall into disgrace, to convince the enemy that he is no longer useful. What makes this story devastating is how completely it strips away illusion. There are no glamorous tools, no dramatic escapes, only manipulation layered upon manipulation. Lemus is not just deceiving the enemy. He is being used by his own side as a disposable asset. Every step forward reveals another layer of betrayal, another truth withheld, but another reminder that loyalty in this world is conditional. The film's tone is relentlessly bleak: gray streets, empty rooms, conversations filled with subtext rather than clarity. Tradecraft is precise but never reassuring. Meetings are arranged with caution. Information is exchanged with suspicion. Every interaction feels like a test, and failure is not an option anyone survives. As the operation unfolds, the moral boundaries begin to collapse. The distinction between right and wrong becomes irrelevant. What matters is outcome, and even that outcome is controlled by forces beyond Lemus's understanding. He is not the architect of the mission. He is a component within it. Bond films promise control over chaos. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold exposes chaos within control. It reveals that intelligence agencies are willing to sacrifice their own people to achieve strategic goals. And once you accept that truth, the idea of heroism disappears. By the end, there is no triumph, no sense of victory, only the quiet realization that espionage is not about saving the world. It is about surviving long enough to understand that the world was never what you thought it was. Number 1. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, 2011. Look at the room. No one raises their voice. No one makes a sudden move, yet the tension is suffocating. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is the purest expression of espionage as quiet warfare. A battle fought not with weapons, but with suspicion, with patience, with the slow extraction of truth from layers of carefully constructed lies. At the center is George Smiley, a man who does not command attention, yet controls every moment through observation. He is brought out of retirement to investigate the possibility of a Soviet mole at the highest levels of British intelligence. The implications are catastrophic. If the allegation is true, then the entire structure of the agency has been compromised from within. The investigation unfolds like a puzzle, assembled in darkness. Fragments of information are gathered through interviews, old files, half-remembered conversations. Each piece is incomplete on its own. Only when combined do they begin to form a picture. And even then, that picture remains uncertain, because in espionage, certainty is a luxury rarely afforded. Tradecraft here is meticulous and understated. Surveillance is conducted with patience. Meetings are arranged with precision. Codes and signals replace direct communication. The film respects the intelligence of its audience by refusing to simplify these processes. It demands attention. It demands engagement, because this is how real intelligence work operates. Slowly, methodically, without spectacle. What elevates the film is its atmosphere of pervasive distrust. Every character is a potential suspect. Every loyalty is questioned. The closer Smiley gets to the truth, the more isolated he becomes. Because exposing the mole means confronting individuals he once trusted. Individuals who helped build the very system now under threat. Bond films thrive on certainty. The enemy is known. The objective is clear. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy removes that comfort entirely. It shows that the most dangerous enemy is the one hidden within your own ranks, the one who understands your systems because they helped create them. In the end, the revelation does not bring relief. It brings recognition. Recognition that espionage is not about defeating outsiders. It is about confronting the fractures within. And once those fractures are exposed, nothing returns to what it was before. So next time someone says espionage is glamorous, remember this list. Real intelligence work is quiet, brutal, and unforgiving. If you stayed till the end, drop your thoughts below and tell me which film hit hardest. And if you want more deep dives like this, subscribe and stay inside the shadows.